My home is like a two-way mirror, a single-sided reflection on each side. On days when the sickness for my home takes over me, I don't know which side I belong to. I wonder, is it the side of home I belong to or the other? How can it be that I am homesick for a place that may be foreign to me? Despite everything about me being visible on each side of the mirror, the sides that don't quite fit right, the sides that don't sound right, quick or sharp enough that the tip of my tongue, the sides that may have grown down fine or hide fit on the sides of home. That's the opening of a brief poem by Flora, who is a asylum seeker, a refugee who came to Australia, and one of many little tales and little snippets in seeking asylum. The voice of Australians should hear our stories. This book was incredible. It's touching. It's very sad. Some of the people's stories are incredibly sad. That to think this is our humanity. This is the reality for certain people, and it's really sad because of the way our government, the Australian government, treats people fleeing the worst kind of life. And they're not criminals. They're not um, coming here trying to steal our jobs and all that bullshit rhetoric that you know media betrays and tells us. And they're not all looking to screw people over. They're people that come from countries and experience horrors of the world, genuinely perpetrated or manipulated, more to the point, by Western countries, particular America. But we have a part in that as Australians. Our government backs their governments that allow these decisions to happen, to allow these corporations to affect these people's lives. And, you know, we then when they come here, we use them as fodder for political gains and, oh, stop the boat people and things like that. This book, I've actually found it in a little bookstore in Euroa. Actually, my friend found it, picked it up and sort of looked at it, and then put it and showed me, and put it down. And I was like, no, I couldn't not pick it up. And yeah, it was well worth the $2 that I paid for it in this secondhand bookshop in Euroa. I actually read it to my daughter, my 10-year-old daughter, who's very open and got a high level of emotional intelligence, and we read their stories, and the Australian Asylum Seeker Resource Centre, it tells the backstory of that in here, and then it's just filled with just individuals' stories about how they come, and there's so many different tales, different backgrounds, different reasons for being here, different ways to get here, and different challenges and different hardships these people, and that's the thing, they are people that faced coming to this country, that this lucky country that we call it. This some were brutalized, some had parents killed, some had families killed. um, some will never be able to return to their homes. Ideally, we live in a world where we can end this stuff, which we could tomorrow. We could do it tomorrow if we just step back from this greed and these corporations that control and manipulate us, and these government agendas, you know. But in Australia, that's a big picture. In Australia, we as humans have the power to help as many of these people, and so many of the people in this book still live in limbo of will they be kicked out of this country. And this is just a fraction of the tale of the asylum seekers and the refugees in this country and around the world. They're not criminals. They're just people looking to do what, like I hope to do, raise happy children, prosper and eat. That's really the basics that they're seeking, is to just live their life. I think this is definitely one of the best books I've read, because of the way it was done, just little snippets of human tales. I think books like this should be taught in schools. You know, it's 160 pages, give or take. It's open. It's got beautiful photos of these survivors and these wonderful people. And the more we can expose young people to these kinds of stories, the better off our world will be, because it'll open up empathy and channels and things like that. This was genuinely a brilliant read, and one I cannot recommend. I've said that about a lot of books, and I genuinely mean I love books, and that's the whole point. But this is one that I think is next level brilliant for what it is, and it's not overly complicated. They're just nice little snippets, a couple of pages for each person, sharing the bare minimum of their experience. And hopefully one day we'll live in a world, we'll live in a country that understands that these people, that they've come from horrors and come from hardship, but if we allow them and we open our hearts up and our country up to them, they can actually enrich our country and our lives. In this country we've got so many shortages, in the healthcare sector, in the education sector. There's people seeking refuge that are teachers, that are doctors, that are engineers, and then there's masses that are uneducated too, but we could upskill them into all sorts of levels and open up a better country if we stop electing these horrendous politicians. And I remember, it was sort of all began in with John Howard, the shaping and the using of refugees and asylum seekers and the boat people as a political tool. But the irony is, it was an Australian man was one of the people that actually was a big part of writing the document about refugees and asylum seekers back in the 1950s, I believe it was, and we were one of the early countries to sign the agreement, and how horrible we treat them now, these people, I want to keep stressing that point, people, how we changed our policies and, the disgusting way of shipping them off to Manus Island and Christmas Island and imprisoning people for just wanting a better life, because we've labelled them as boat people. This narrative. It's not it's hard not to be very political minded about this book. It's an eye opening. It's touching. It's got moments of hope, of genuine hope. People, the tales that got something a little bit good and just built on that and then tried to give it to other people. And that's what this stories are really about. The humanitarian side of people going through the worst, trying to find something better, and then being able to give other people better and sharing. There's so many tales of that. And that's what, if we never let these horrible boat people in and we never understood that they're humans, we wouldn't have these people trying to do good things, and not just for each other, but for all of Australia. Seeking Asylum, Our Stories, it's a brilliant read. The people that put it together, the Asylum Resource Centre, cannot be commended enough. It was a fantastic read. I really loved it, and I'm glad I shared it with my daughter, even though some of the things were a little bit horrible and we had to have a few little conversations, but it's not over the top. It doesn't delve right into the horrors the people in these stories lived through, but it does give you an indication of where some of the tough things they've been through. And yeah, it was a brilliant read. I highly recommend it again. I think it should be taught in schools. Absolutely brilliant read. Happy reading. I'll follow for more.